That, what you just saw, was the biggest blue ball moment in manga history. And I'm going to explain why. First, let me kind of explain. Miyamoto Musashi was the strongest swordsman of his generation. Yujiro Hanma is the strongest creature of modern day, of the modern day generation. Even though people can argue Baki is technically the strongest creature alive, not really. He didn't win the fight against Yujiro. He won it in his way. Yujiro still damaged him really bad. Yujiro left that fight with only a few bruises. Miyamoto Musashi was the strongest of his generation. Stories were written for him for over 1,000 years. Whatever, right? So Yujiro ends up going to find this guy. And when they meet, it's practically on sight. Miyamoto Musashi's like, oh, what do you see, Yujiro? Yujiro was like, well, I see one of the most legendary swordsmen ever. What else can I see? So after he answers that question, Yujiro basically asks Miyamoto the same question. And then he's like, oh, would you have me see it any other way? Which means he only sees gold. Yujiro only sees the swordman in front of him. But Miyamoto saw gold. Yujiro was like, so this is like a means to an end to you? You lack purity? And then Miyamoto's like, lack purity? My name used to be said in the streets, songs written about me. People wanted me from around the world, or well, not the world, but around Asia at the time, right? And then he goes on a bit of a rant. Yujiro's just like, yeah, okay, good grief. And then he's like, I just want to make a name for myself again, just like it once was. Because he used to have everything back then. Riches, women, gold, whatever he wanted. And then Yujiro's just like, whatever. So Miyamoto takes a slash at him. And I don't really know how to explain this with to a non-Baki viewer who might just be getting into the series. Let's just say fog image. He slashes him without technically slashing him. And he does that in he's like, wow, your skin is like extremely hard. And then Yujiro's like, well, yeah, because you were not pierced, you were not cut, you were not slashed me without your swords. But me, on the other hand, and he takes a swipe at the wine bottle, bang, breaks it, sends pieces of shards going clean into the forehead of Miyamoto Musashi. It cuts him right here. There's blood oozing down. The old guy's like, oh my god, holy shit. Yujiro like, oh, go fetch him his swords, cause he needs them. And Miyamoto's like, okay, bet. And then they get outside and it's about to go down. So they get out. Miyamoto's like, my two faithfuls back to me again. And he takes out one sword and he holds it in right in front of him like this, you know? And then Yujiro walks up, grabs it, and then is like, Miyamoto, don't patronize me. And fucking smacks Thunder. Gives him a wide open palm smack. And I mean, he met Charlie Brown. He over here said, what clock? And sent him off his feet. Yujiro still had a firm grip of the sword, so when he went flying back, and I mean, Yujiro probably smacked him so hard that his soul left his body. Yujiro smacked him, he went off his feet, he still had a firm grip of the sword, and he went flying with the sword. And then Yujiro planted his feet, they stopped, and he turned Miyamoto quickly over, which jolted him up. And then Miyamoto was like, oh, uh, uh, man, you knocked me into Otherworld, but I guess it's not my time. And he tries to apply pressure onto the sword so Yujiro can let go or can slowly like kind of like crumple down a little bit. But Yujiro keeps his ground and is still holding the sword. Miyamoto's like, oh man, this guy is actually pretty strong. And he fucking lifts Yujiro up. He lifts him up. Yujiro's even like, oh my god, this guy has fucking strength. He picks him up and he fucking swings him. And he practically makes him let go of the sword while then pulling out his second one. Like, oh my god, that what just came from that? When I'm telling you, I was about to literally bust. I was about to literally bust. Like, there was a chronometer, bro. That shit would be up to here. Like, I was almost there. But he has both his swords out, and you know, it gets a fire panel of just Miyamoto with his smaller sword and his, you know, his larger katana, and it's just like, fuck. So then, once Miyamoto pulls out both his swords, Yujiro's like, oh, you have a warrior spirit, so you're the real thing. And then the old guy's like, oh, already? And then Yujiro's demon back starts to peek out from his shirt, and Miyamoto rushes at Yujiro. He throws a few slashes. He throws a few swings, I should say, would be a better thing. Yujiro dodges them perfectly. And then Miyamoto gets right in front of him and practically cuts right into his neck. Almost. It seems that he could have actually lopped off Yujiro's head if he made a mistake. But Yujiro grabbed his wrist and then kicked him in the balls. Yeah, Yujiro kicked him in the nuts. And I mean, he kicked him in the nuts. Yujiro was one of the best martial artists in the fucking world in this universe, and he kicked you in the nuts. Imagine that. Now you have fucking one nut is like this big, while the other hasn't stayed, while the one has stayed the same size. You have one ball that probably popped, and now you have one that's steadily holding on, but it's still black and blue. And then Miyamoto, like, it just topples over, which I would do, because he just kicked me in the nuts. So Miyamoto's like, you're pretty good. And then Yujiro shows his cuts and is like, doesn't really look like that, but you live up to the stories, so are you. And then Miyamoto's like, oh, they told my stories for 400 years. I like that. And then he puts his swords away and gives them to the old man and is like, I don't need these anymore. And he rushes at Yujiro and he almost slashes him. But Yujiro dodges, only getting a few hairs chopped off, right? But Miyamoto was an inch away from slashing him, from cutting him. But this is where it's like the chick you're making out with. You two are making out, you're almost there, and then she gets a call on the phone or someone knocks on the door. This guy jumps in front of Yujiro and he takes the cut or the slash that was made for Yujiro, and he is out like a light. It cuts him. Bang. Yujiro's fucking furious. And my jaw dropped to the ground when I saw that he jumped in front of him. I was like, oh man. I was like, oh man, dude. I was like, come on. You're like this close to a serious Yujiro fight. Because we saw one with Doppo, kinda, We saw one with Kaio Retsu's teacher, sensei, I should say. And we kind of saw one with Baki, but not really. Like, all those fights, he showed off the demon back, but at the same time, he didn't show off his martial arts. And we were this close to seeing that. But he had to jump in front of Yujiro and take the slash from him. And Yujiro was like, what do you think you're doing? And he lifted him up because he fell right onto his foot. And he used his foot to lift him up and smacked the shit out of him. The guy went flying. Yujiro walked and picked him up. But Miyamoto was like, that's enough. He had enough. And then Yujiro was like, I'll decide when he had enough. Did you forget the world's strongest? I'll beat your ass. But the old guy convinces Yujiro to let him go because he's knocked out, he's hurt, blah, blah, blah. And dude, I was just like, oh my god, we were so close. He didn't even fight Pickle. He didn't fight Pickle. He had one fight with the sumo guy, which he beat the sumo guy easily. Easily. He punched the sumo guy, I believe, once. Sumo guy got back up and I believe was knocked out. I gotta read that fight back. I might make an entire new video on it. Who knows? But bang. He takes that slash. Yujiro was fucking pissed. The old guy convinces him to let him go. And then I'm just there like I was almost there. And I just gotta say this reading this fight back made me fucking be like, wow, this was insane. This was insane that we almost got so close. And I guarantee you, maybe in this next arc, we will see Yujiro hopefully fight again. But he seems like he's not really going to. He seems like he's not going to anymore as much. Because the sumo guys aren't really. They don't really seem strong enough to gain his attention. He is fighting a guy now, I believe. But a fight with Yujiro is kind of just an ass whooping. This guy is probably not gonna be nothing but falter just to prove Yujiro's superiority. And it sucks because we were this close, and I just wish the creator just was like, oh, sure, I'll just bite, I'll just let them fight a little bit longer. But no, he couldn't. He couldn't let us be happy. Yeah, so basically that was the summary of the fight, while also being my opinion of this fight and why I thought it was kind of a blue ball. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I will be making a lot more Baki videos, and I will also do movie reviews eventually. They're gonna be really bad ones, like that. So, yeah. So I had a lot of fun recording this, so fucking yeah.